Hi guys! So, as I'm going through and doing tutorials, I realize there's some people who aren't as experienced, with makeup and might want to learn a little bit more in depth, stuff that I learned, stuff that really help you, choose the right makeup for you specifically or even later for a friend. So I want to do a series called, the makeup basics and just do the basics for everything. Break it down, for foundation, for eyeshadows, for eyeliner, for eyebrows, So the first one I want to do today is going to be foundation and how to choose the right foundation for you, because there's so many different types of foundation, and how do you break it down to what's going to suit you and what's going to make your skin look the best. So in order to choose a foundation, don't get intimidated. There's a couple things you have to consider, but once you kind of have it down, and after you choose maybe your first one, everything after that, it's going to be a lot easier to you. So 5 things you have to consider when you're choosing the perfect foundation for you. First of all, you have to think about your skin type. You have to think about what coverage you prefer. Sometimes you might prefer light coverage, sometimes you might prefer medium or full coverage. The other thing is you have to consider your undertones, because your undertones will let you know which type of color to choose for your skin type. It's going to flatter you the most. And then it comes down to color matching. Color matching is probably one of the trickiest, but once you kind of have it down, you're good. And then finally, how you apply foundation, the different ways to apply it, maybe by your preference, what will work better for different foundations. So let's just get started. Alright, first thing to consider, skin type. Everybody has different skin types. So first you have to consider and think about, are you dry? Are you oily? Are you normal skin? Or are you a combination? There's some people who are, normal, but they get dry around their cheeks. There's some people who are oily, but they might get a little dry on their head. So it just depends. Think about what's your skin type, because different foundations are best for different types of skins. So maybe a matte foundation you'll want to steer clear of if you're more dry. Maybe a more luminous foundation, meaning it's going to give you that glow, might not be as good for oily people, because you already got your own natural glow going on that you're actually trying to calm down. So think about your skin type. Second step is coverage. Now, this is all by preference, and everybody has a different preference. So you can get anywhere from maybe a coverage that's just going to be maybe like color correcting, which is like a tinted moisturizer. A tinted moisturizer is extremely light, and what it is basically, it's just like mixing a little bit of your foundation with a little bit of your moisturizer, and it's just adding kind of that color. Then you have like a very light coverage foundation, which is the more liquidy it is, the most likely the lighter of a coverage it's going to be. So something like this L'Oreal Magic Nude, this is extremely liquidy. I tried it on the store, I was like, oh, let me try it on my hand. Like, oh my god, all this liquid came out. So this is definitely a very light coverage. Another type of light coverage is a BB cream, and I know a lot of people prefer BB cream maybe on a daily basis, or some people, I know I prefer to switch to BB cream maybe in the summer, especially because it's really hot and I don't want my whole face melting off with like a very thick coverage foundation. Then you have something that can be a light to medium, meaning it's buildable. So something like this NARS Sheer Glow, it's a light coverage, but you can build it up to be a medium. One thing with foundation, especially with making it a more full coverage, definitely work in layers. Put on a little bit and then see how much that covers. Let it dry a little bit and then add on. Don't add so much at once, because then you're definitely going to have that cake face that nobody wants. I don't know anybody who's like, give me that cake face. No. So definitely a buildable coverage. So this would qualify as maybe like a light to medium. A full coverage. Now full coverage is definitely, the thicker the consistency, most likely the fuller coverage is going to be. So something like this Laura Mercier Silk Cream Foundation. This is a lot thicker, creamier of a consistency, so this is going to be more full coverage. Some people might prefer full coverage on a daily basis. Some people might just want it for special events. And I know I personally prefer maybe a medium to full coverage, except, in the summers. Something also to consider with the coverage is, especially if you want to maybe take photos, look on the bottle of your foundation and look to see if it has SPF. So So yeah, SPF is great for the summer, especially to protect you from the sun. But in photos, if your foundation has SPF, then it's definitely gonna have that white cast when you take photos. So that's just a little tip for when you're choosing a foundation specifically for a night when you're gonna take photos. Skip the SPF. Now, undertones. Understanding what your undertone is really going to help you in choosing your color. So you have different undertones, such as you have cool undertones, warm undertones, and neutral undertones. And how to figure out your undertones, for some people it'll be easier than others. Some people you're going to be kind of confused, or you really don't know. So to find out your undertones, look at your veins and then see what color your veins are. So if your veins are more like bluish purple, you're definitely going to be on the cool undertones. If your veins are more green, then you're definitely going to be a warm undertone. If you have a mix of blue and green, then you're going to be a neutral. And normally when especially picking out foundations and when you're going in the store, they'll ask you, what's your undertone? Like, what is that? Look at your veins, check it out. Another tip, but I feel like that one's more confusing because then it even just depends on you, is if maybe wearing silver looks better on you and flatters you a little bit better, then you're going to be cool undertones. If gold looks better on you, then you're going to be warm undertones. But I feel like that one's a little bit trickier because then that comes down to preference. Like, oh yeah, girl, I look good in gold undertones. I must be warm. I'm obviously not. I am a cool undertone. Now, next thing, color matching. Oh, this is a lot of trial and error, I feel like. So when it comes to color matching, I feel like when you go high end, that's probably the easiest way to go because you have the sales clerk girl there and just be like, okay, what color am I? Check it out, and she'll try it on you. Bam, you're good. When it comes to drugstore, especially if maybe you want to ease your way into makeup and you don't want to right away buy a $45, $30 foundation, drugstore it gets trickier. And that's why things such as knowing your undertones and your skin tone coverage and all that is very important, especially when you're kind of on your own. Now, the first thing you want to make sure is when you're trying to match your color, don't use like your hand, your wrist, because they're kind of different colors. Try to use the bottom of your jawline, and then definitely want to make sure it matches with your neck, especially if you're a girl who tans and your whole body changes colors throughout the year. You're going to want to match it to your neck, especially if your face is usually whiter. Now, a tip I feel like that's good for if, girls who go to the drugstore want to know get a better idea, kind of gear their color a little bit better. Something that I did is I went to the MAC store actually, and I found out what my color in MAC was. So you might be wondering, what? So what I feel like almost a good majority of makeup is compared to MAC. And I feel like especially in your color, girls are like, oh, I'm an NC40, I'm an NC30, I'm an MW20. And I feel like every other makeup is kind of compared to MAC. Whereas like, oh, in Revlon, if you're an NC something in MAC, then you're going to be a beige. And that's how I found out my color. I went to MAC and I was like, okay, I want to know what color I am. And later, maybe I wanted to get a MAC foundation that would work out. So the girl tested it on me and she's like, okay, you're an NC25. Alright, so I Google searched. I wanted to find out what my color in the Revlon Color Stay foundation was, but I didn't want to buy the wrong color foundation and just lose out on like, what, $12, $13? So then I Googled, it's like, okay, I'm an NC25 in MAC. What is my Revlon Color Stay color? And I found like all these different sources, and there was one where like someone went and color matched and kind of like geared your MAC color towards your Revlon color and just did like a whole chart. And it was like, okay, well, if you're a MAC NC25, you would be, a beige in the Revlon. If you're NC40, you're going to be this, a natural, nude natural, And they kind of geared it towards me, and then especially if maybe you're on the more pinky cool or if you're on the yellow cool side. And I was like, okay, I'm going to trust you. I'm going to trust you. Yeah, and I went to Ulta and I got my Revlon color, which according to that website, it was sand beige. Dead on. It was it. Because it was between that and another one. I was like, you know what? I think I'm more yellow than a neutral. So I went for it, and yep, I was a sand beige Revlon. So from there on, I knew Revlon, this is my color. I was lucky enough for my drugstore. Maybe you still have it in your area. When I went to Ulta, they would have the foundations kind of like testers. And I asked one of the girls to color match me. So that's how I knew what my color was in L'Oreal. I was like, okay, C5. She color matched me. I was like, all right, cool. I'm a cool. So I was lucky enough. So if you're lucky enough to have that in your Ulta, go ahead and, ask someone to color match you. And definitely, I would maybe prefer buying, if you're doing it yourself, go to Ulta. I feel like they have a better return policy than Walgreens. And I feel like a lot of it with color matching, especially when you're first starting off in its drugstore, a lot of it's just trial and error, finding out what's your real color, and maybe not being in denial of how light you are. Because I feel like I was like, no, I'm tan, I'm somewhat a little bit more medium, I'm not light, but no, I'm light. I bought this like setting powder, and it was a medium deep, and my actual color was like a light plus, and I was like, I use it for contouring now. But I was in such I was like, no, I swear I'm darker. But no, just, you are your color, you are beautiful. Don't be in denial. In the summer, you're gonna tan. And that's another thing to consider. In the summer, your summer color is going to be different than your winter or your fall color, because you're definitely getting a little bit darker. You're going to get more of that sun on you, so that's definitely, you're going to have to buy a different color foundation to match you in the summer. Unless you're Howard Hughesing it and staying home all day during the summers and not going out. But it's definitely something to consider when you're about to buy a foundation. It's like, okay, especially if it's high-end, like, okay, I'm going to buy this foundation color, like maybe right before summer, but then guess what? You're going to be a totally different color. So gear your color depending on the season as well. And I feel like, for me personally, for beginners, if you want to go off with drugstore, I think if I had to recommend a foundation for you to try out first, I think it would be L'Oreal True Match. Only because I feel like, not only is it great, but because it has the widest selection range. I feel like it covers like almost every different skin type, from really light to really dark, and they make it easy because they kind of separate it to cool, neutral, and warm. So you figured out your undertones, alright, cool, bam, you're going to be in this section, so you only have to deal with these colors, and guess what? You have more of a chance of finding your color range rather than other types of brands that don't have that many ranges of color, and so you kind of have to either mix, which you're just paying double the price, or you're just going to get a color that's not going to suit you very well. And I feel like L'Oreal True Match is great for dry, oily, normal, and combo type skin. Like, even for my dry skin, I loved it. My sister, who's, oily skin, she's used it as well. And if maybe for the dry people, if you want to go an extra step, guess what? They came up with the L'Oreal True Match Lumi, which gives you more of that illuminating effect. So you get that glow about you if you want that extra step. The only thing you have to be careful with the L'Oreal True Match Lumi is that their colors, so say I'm a C5 in L'Oreal True Match Regular, the C5 in the Lumi is a hint darker. And I remember I bought it and I was like, oh crap, this is darker. Should I just return it for the C4? But I was like, you know what? It's about to be summer, and I saved it. It was my perfect summer color. So just know the True Match Lumi is a shade darker than the L'Oreal True Match. Go figure. But it worked out for me in the summer, since it was, one, a lighter foundation, and two, it gave me that luminosity. Now, how to apply. There's definitely different ways, you can apply your foundation, and one of them is just using your hands. I know I like to do this with my Revlon Whip foundation, and because it's just thicker and it just gets there, and you can definitely do that with any foundation. Your hands are probably like the best way to apply your foundation. A couple different things to use, which I know old school, back in the day, it was all about this foundation brush, and I feel like, alright, it's 2014, that's just, I feel like, almost obsolete now. I feel like my favorite way to apply foundation, well, one of two of my favorite ways, is with a stippling brush. And I like this way better than the regular foundation brush, because that one gets streaky, it's just kind of painting on, and it isn't airbrushing it like this will. This type of foundation, and here's a different type. So this is a Sigma F80 Flat Top Kabuki, and it's just real dense, so it really packs on like the color. Same thing with this, real dense. So what you do is you just stipple on the foundation, just stipple it on all around. You stipple, so you're really working that foundation into your skin. And then you're just kind of, in little circular motions, just kind of buffing it into your skin. And you're buffing it because you want that airbrush finish. So these are definitely my favorite. If you want to go a little bit, this is still cheap compared to like MAC brushes. I love Sigma brushes because it's MAC quality for a cheaper price. So this is, maybe it's going to run you like $16 or something, but it's very, very worth it, and you'll never go back to the other way of applying your foundation. Say you want to ease your way into applying your foundation, and you don't want to spend $16 quite yet, I would definitely suggest this Real Techniques Expert Face Brush. This is my other favorite brush to apply foundation. I feel like it does the same job as that other one. Other tools to apply your foundation would be sponges, and definitely High and Rub, the Beauty Blender. Believe me, if you invest, you won't see any other way to apply foundation. Like, it's just one of my favorite. I think this one tops my flat top Kabuki a little bit more. This one gives you that extreme airbrush. And if you want to save a little bit of money, ease your way into $8, the Real Techniques Perfect Complexion Sponge, something like that. Get these at Ulta, maybe at Walgreens and see Real Techniques. But definitely what you do with these is you run them under water, you get them wet, and then you squeeze out all the excess water, get them damp, and then you just tap, tap, tap. There's no rubbing with these. You just tap, 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 tap your foundation on. Airbrush finish. Those are definitely my favorite ways to apply foundation. Something else that I feel like it's really going to help your foundation stay is a primer. Some people, see a need for it. Some people don't. Something really cheap, a cheap type of primer is the Monistat Shaving Relief Gel. And something like, what? Like, really? Isn't that for, No, it's for your face. It's a great substitute for your face. This is only like $5-6 at Walmart, Target, either place you can get it. This is probably like my favorite because it's so cheap, and it does, I feel like, the same job as maybe the $30 primers you can get from like Tarte or Benefit. And I feel like it really makes a difference in smoothing out my skin and giving me that really great canvas for when I go in with my foundation brushes. Something to help at the end, very end, after you've done all your work, you found your color, you found everything, to set your makeup. A couple of different options that you have. You can definitely use a powder. My favorite types of powders are these MAC Mineralized Skin Finish Natural. I like these powders because they are natural. They're supposed to give you that natural look. So this is definitely a more finely milded powder. It's not as much coverage as a regular powder. So I feel like for dry people, this is a great option because as much as you want to avoid powders, you definitely need something to set your makeup, and a powder is going to help, everything not budge and stay, and especially when it's like maybe the summer and you're really greasy. I feel like a powder is something very light like this. It's going to help you. And for oily people, if this is something you just want to maybe correct your skin color, this is definitely something you can just use on its own, and it's definitely just going to do some skin color correction. And this is the foundation, medium deep, that I was using as opposed to medium. I now use this for my contouring because I was in denial of how light it was. But I'm accepting it. If you want to go a lighter route, definitely, get something like this Maybelline Dream Wonder powder. It's very light, and it doesn't have that talc, which is going to make you really cakey and not a lot of that buildup. If you want to use an actual foundation to set your makeup, go right ahead, especially maybe if you're oily, that might work for you if you want more coverage. The types of brushes that you can use, I suggest for dry people, maybe something like this that's more fluffy. That's not going to, the fluffier, the less product you're going to pick up, so it's just going to give you a light dust. Whereas, say you want more coverage, then you'll get, a more dense brush, and that's really going to pack on more powder. You can definitely get less, product, just depending on how light-handed you are with it. Another way to set your makeup, if you really don't want to use a powder, I would suggest a makeup setting spray. And depending on the type of spray you use can depend on your skin type. Luckily, they come up with that. So you can do something like the Urban Decay Chill Makeup Setting Spray. It's going to be more hydrating and cooling. So definitely for dry skin people. They have other types, so it's going to be, I think they have the De-Slick. It's going to control your oils and mattify you. A cheaper alternative, I just saw that NYX came out with their own setting spray, and they have two different types. I definitely bought the Dewy Finish because I want that luminous type of glow, and I've really been liking it, actually. It does do that luminosity for me. Or they have the matte finish setting spray. So you have your options. Definitely just look around through brands, see what they have. I feel like a lot of brands are coming out with, options for both oily and dry. So I really hope this kind of helped you figure out, what kind of foundation is best for your skin type, your skin tone, your skin coverage preference, and just overall just satisfy your needs and make you happy and just fall in love with the foundation that, you feel is going to make you look best. So definitely, comment down below if you have any more questions. Maybe I can help you answer them. And I feel like for me, overall, this is with your makeup journey, especially as you're starting off. It's all trial and error. It's figuring out, what works best for you, what you like, what you don't like. And in the end, it's just preference. If you like it, go for it. If, somebody else doesn't like it, whatever. It's your face. You do what you want. So I hope this really helped you guys. And thanks so much for watching. Bye.